Welcome to the 33rd episode of the It's Been Said podcast. I'm your host, SAI Executive Director Lisa Remy. Each show is dedicated to conversations on leadership as we further SAI's mission to support, encourage, and develop Iowa's educational leaders and learners. In today's episode, we will explore a topic that's foundational to the success of any school system, educator wellness. Over the past 2 years, North Polk Community School District has made intentional, sustained efforts to support the well-being of all staff, recognizing that when educators feel their best, they can do their best for students. Today, we'll dive into their journey, what's worked, what they've learned, and where they're headed next. Joining me is Michael Kline, North Polk Superintendent. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be
Yeah.
here today.
Awesome. Thanks for agreeing to be a guest on our podcast. So before I jump into some questions about your work around wellness,
Yep.
tell our listeners a little bit about the North Polk Community School District.
Yeah. So North Polk's a growing district. That's the theme word you hear a lot around here. Currently, about 2,350 students in the district. Ankeny is creeping up on us, but the majority of our buildings are located in Alleman, about 2 miles straight north of Ankeny. Our high school, middle school, and central elementary are located here. And then we have two buildings in Polk City, a little bit southwest of us here. We have Big Creek Elementary, which serves grades 3 through 5, and then West Elementary, which serves preschool through second grade for students that live in Polk City proper. There's Polk City addresses that are on our central routes for elementary that students come out here. But for the most part, if you live in Polk City proper, your kids are going to go to West and Big Creek for elementary.
Awesome. Growing district. That's great. And it also brings those little challenges as you finding staff and yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I focus, you use the word I use in their challenges. They're not problems. We don't have problems. We have challenges, and they're good challenges, and they're fun challenges. In the 4 years I've been here, we built and opened Big Creek Elementary. We added on to our middle school, onto Central Elementary, and to the high school. And so West Elementary is the only building since I've been here that hasn't been touched with an addition.
Yeah, yeah, that keeps your life moving for sure, Michael. That's
Life's
uh,
not boring.
yes, exactly. All right. So as we think about educator wellness, can you define for us wellness from your perspective in your district?
What I tell people is it's your A game. We want people to bring their A game every single day they come to work. I always use the analogy if we got an email saying that Johnny's life was going to be changed forever on February 21st, well, I know that I would probably brush my teeth an extra second or two to make sure they look good. I might even put a tie on February 21st because I know that Johnny's life's going to be changed forever that day by something that I do. Well, unfortunately, we don't get those emails of when we're going to say something, when our interactions with a student are going to affect them for the rest of their life, hopefully in a positive manner. And so we need to bring our A game every single day. And so to me, wellness is feeling good and wanting to come to work. And everyone has their cold January Mondays where it's a little bit harder to get up. But on the average, enjoy the work that they do and the opportunities that they get to work with the students and staff here at North Pole.
Yeah. So which staff did you have involved in your wellness efforts?
We included all of our regular contracted employees. So all of our hourly employees in the nutrition department, transportation, custodial, technology, all of those people were involved in this process. Kind of the peripheral ones are regular guest teachers, substitutes that come in, our staff members that just are involved in solely being a supervisor for an activity or a coach. We did not include them, but we ended up buying, I think it was 400 copies of the Educator Wellness book, and got them to as many people as we could.
Yeah, awesome. So that's very inclusive across all, with a bus driver who sees those kids right away in the morning to those who say goodbye to them at the end of a school day. So Yeah.
Well, I like the title Educator Wellness because it's not just about teachers. It's about our administrators, our teachers, our paraeducators, our nutrition workers, because they do a big job in making sure that we have healthy food to provide to students for breakfast and for lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. So what first sparked your district's commitment to prioritizing educator wellness over these past few years?
So I believe I have the date right. I think it was March of 2023. I was at the Heartland AEA Superintendent's meeting, and Dr. Tim Canel came and spoke that day and just spoke about their book and the work that they had done with the four different wellness dimensions. And he did a real quick, it was about a 2 hour run through of the physical, mental, emotional and social dimensions, and then the different aspects that make up the different pieces of that. And that day, I took one, and before I even left the room that I was in, started implementing for the physical wellness piece. He talks about movement and finding things that you like to do. And so, like I referenced earlier, I've been here at North Polk for 4 years now. Prior to this, I was at North Scott and had a great group of friends there, and we played a lot of basketball. It's not fast-paced basketball for most of us in our mid to late 30s or in even our 40s, but it's a good way to get some exercise. Because Dr. Kane will emphasize find something that you enjoy to do, and you will do it. If you don't like doing it, you're probably not going to do it. And I hate running. As much as I have wanted to be a runner, I hate running. And so I never ran as much as I intended to. And so he said, find something I like doing. I'm like, I like playing basketball. We should start a pickup basketball game here. I happen to have the keys to all the buildings. We'll find a spot in a time. And so that birthed our Wednesday night basketball. And I call it adult basketball. We've had some people bring friends that are female, male, and we just play. The one rule is no jerks allowed. We don't want anyone that gets too intense about the game because the goals are to have some fun, get some exercise, and leave healthy. And so it's a fun way for us to do that. But then after that day, I learned that Dr. Kanold and Dr. Tina Bugren were coming back to the central Iowa area to do a 2.5 day workshop in June. And so our Director of Student Services, Matthew Blackmore, our West Elementary Principal, Corey Allison, and then at the time, our Central Elementary Principal, Christy Mixdorf, the three of them went to the 2.5 day session, and they came back on fire that, hey, this is something that we should make an effort to do for our entire staff so that the people are focusing on living their best life every single day and not just holding out hope for the summertime because then I get to go on vacation. But if you're waiting for that moment to come, you're going to be waiting a long time. So what can we do to help people live their best life every single day? And so then that's when we looked at, well, how can we roll this out to staff over the school year using our full day professional development days to kind of focus on one of the four dimensions. And then each of the buildings then kind of incorporated how is this something that we can tangibly do over the next 2 to 3 months to live this out a little bit.
Yeah. So it's evident that you heard from one of the authors, and then you had some other administrators hear from authors. So I see why they came back all jazzed up, ready to go. So I understand why you selected the resource. How did you introduce that resource to your staff? What was their initial reaction to this work?
Yep. So we took the four dimensions, and so the first one we kind of did a whole kickoff of why we were going to focus on educator wellness, and then we focused on the physical aspects in the first presentation. And our first presentation was probably 90 minutes to 2 hours. And after we do professional learning, we do ask for feedback from people. And so it wasn't 100% positive, but overwhelmingly it was pretty positive of, oh, this is good. We like this. And so then the next one, the mental dimension, the next professional development day we did about 75 minutes because people kind of knew the gist. It was good conversation. We tried to make it as much interactive as possible in our auditorium with close to 300 and some people in there. Like I said, we bought 400 and some books, so we wanted to make sure as many people got them as possible. We didn't want anyone to feel excluded in this process. And then it just kept rolling from there. And each one got a little bit shorter and shorter. Because with our feedback, we saw a little bit less positive, and not that it was negative, but just, hey, we have a lot of other things to do. Is this the best use of our time?
Mm.
And it was anonymous feedback, so I didn't know who to go talk to, but I wanted to tell people, well, I'm really glad that you're feeling great. Now, other people have said this is helpful to them. And so everyone kind of did their own personal journey. And then, like I said, the buildings took a little bit and had different steps along with it. But then as we were doing the presentations, we also built in some self-care time on those professional days, which kind of like the presentations, it was more structured to begin with, that we had uh, three 20-minute rotations, and we encouraged people to go from different places. We had knockout basketball. Again, I enjoyed playing basketball. We had grown-up coloring books. We had yoga. We had walking. We had a variety of different options. And then through the feedback we got, well, what would really help me is more time in my classroom. And so we're like, okay, well, how can we still meet the needs of people that are wanting to do the coloring and the yoga, but then also give a little bit more adult choice and voice to it. And so we bumped the self-care time to the start of our days so that for those people, 20 more minutes of sleep is going to be what's best for my self-care. All right, well, we can facilitate for that. We won't start our learning as early on those days. And people that want to come in and walk together around the building before we start also had that option. So we had a plan, but then we also tried to take a lot of feedback throughout to make it as most meaningful and powerful for our staff.
Yeah, that's awesome that you gave, you adjusted as you got the feedback and gave some voice and choice to your staff. So my understanding, Michael, correctly, that initially you had everybody together when you said like 300.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have
Yeah,
315,
right.
320. And
Right.
so for all four of the kind of whole group kickoffs, we had everyone together for that. And
Yeah.
then this year being year two, it was not anything that we did at the big macro level. It was more in the individual buildings. And how do we implement our focus on trying to help people feel well and feel supported in the buildings and the decisions that we make?
Hmm. How did staff react? You talked a little bit, but have you gotten any feedback this year so far? Well, over this past year, it was that second year. How did they react differently, or was it similar feedback?
It's pretty similar feedback. Again,
Okay.
we try to give people choice and voice of what they're doing on those days, and um, but we try to keep that educator wellness a priority because the better people feel, the better outcomes we're going to have for our students because teacher efficacy is going to be higher, their attendance hopefully is going to be higher, and all those important pieces to making the school work well.
Yeah. Well, gosh, that might be jumping ahead, but we talk a lot in education about burnout. And so when you think about the awareness that you're building with the educator wellness, how did that idea of burnout, was it incorporated in your thinking and your planning, or did you see that kind of as separate, or would this maybe help reduce that in your district?
Well, I think they certainly go together. And I mean, if you look at social media, there was a post by a Des Moines teacher that left education last year. And part of what the post talked about was at the state level, state government, the underappreciation of education. And so I think that kind of ties into it as well, in that we want to make sure that we are having conversations, and when it doesn't feel like we're being fully supported from the state house, 2% new money in a world of 11% health insurance renewals,
Mhm.
and property casualty insurance, again, different pot than the health and salaries one, but the world is getting more and more expensive, and 2% is not enough. And you throw on top of that all of the other requirements that are being asked of schools, it does lead to burnout. And so how do we make the educator wellness piece enough that we are supporting people and helping people to feel like they're being heard, and that we can, what we can affect, make those changes and decisions for the betterment of our staff. One of the things that we've done when roles allow for it is, you see corporate America, a lot of people are working from home 2, 3 days a week. And so our district office staff over the summer, and then our administrators, we're encouraging them, pick one day a week and work from somewhere not the office. If home is not a great place for you to work, then find a coffee shop. Go to a library. I got a picture text here about an hour ago. One of our office staff is working from their gazebo in their backyard because it's a beautiful day today. And so much of what we do is internet based. As long as you can get the internet from where you're working and get your work done, let's take advantage of some of the flexibility that we can have to support combat that burnout that people do feel. And so thing I love about school is the cycle. Every year you get a fresh start come August, and there's the roller coaster of the year with parent-teacher conferences and how teachers feel throughout. But then it's keeping in mind, how do we keep more highs than lows? It's not going to be perfect. We work with 2,350 kids, that number of families, 300 plus staff members. We work with a lot of people, and not everything will go perfectly, but how do we control what we can control for the betterment of our staff?
Yeah, definitely a people business, that's for sure. You mentioned a change about allowing, like this summer, your
Yep.
staff who are working to work one day from home. Any other policy or um, practice changes that you made as an outcome from your learning through this wellness journey?
Um, Timing wise, I'm not sure if it was before or after. One of the changes we made is we did add for non-birthing parents. They may access up to 10 of their self-sick accumulated days for the event of a birth or an adoption. Because obviously, with mothers having maternity leave for six
Mhm.
to 8 to 12 weeks, it does go back to their self-sick. But for fathers and non-birthing parents, it previously we did not allow for them to use their individual sick time. It was the family sick time that we do designate a certain number of family sick days. And so making that change so that fathers and non-birthing parents can be home more for that time for the first couple weeks, in adjusting, and then, and if when their spouse goes back to work, being able to use those days as well, um, to support the family changes.
We're pausing for a brief commercial break. We'll be right back to continue our conversation. Stick around. Our 50th annual conference is coming up, and we are excited to announce a new way to connect with Iowa administrators and more than 150 conference vendors through an exhibitor member social on Tuesday, August 5th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. Whether or not you join us for pre-conference on August 5th, pop over to the EMC Expo Center for 2 free beverage tickets, great appetizers, a chance to win some swag, and networking with your colleagues from around the state. This is a great kickoff to our 2-day conference, which starts the next morning of August 6th. See you there. And now, back to our conversation on leadership.
You took a bold step by using time during professional learning days, because as you said, you even got some feedback about, well, we've got a lot of other things on our plate to think about as well. Why did you decide that you should use some of that professional learning time related to wellness?
Yeah, we want to get clear at what we want to be good at. And so it's not just always about doing more. It's how do we do what we do well. And
Mhm.
so it seems I'm sure some of the staff will be like, "Oh, you do always give us more things to do," and there is always things that we're looking at and initiatives that we're trying. But for the most part, we want to focus on what do we do well. And so our three big drivers over the last 4 years have been standards-based learning and standards-based reporting. Um, Safe and healthy spaces is what we talk about, making sure that our students feel comfortable coming to school, but also our staff feels comfortable to school, and that everyone feels like they belong here in the buildings. And then the last piece is innovation of how do we get creative at doing things differently, to be more efficient, to be more effective, because like I referenced, the state's not coming with a pot of gold for us to add things, and so we need to be creative and get innovative about being flexible and making ends meet where we need to make them meet for the outcome of our students. I always try to think of different diagrams. Students should always be at the center of all diagrams in education, in my opinion, because that's what we're here for. We want the best outcomes for our students, but it takes all of these pieces, having nice facilities, having a great transportation system and keeping students safe on buses, having staff that are showing up every day, maybe even forcing a smile on their face, but welcoming kids by name when they come into the door, into the classroom, so that the kids feel supported and that this is a good environment for learning.
Yeah, when you talk about everybody feeling, even adults, kids, both feeling like they belong, that kind of connects to that school culture piece. So, in what ways did your focus on wellness improve that overall school culture, or even the ways your adults connect with the kiddos?
We do staff surveys, typically twice a year. Now, we did see a little bit of burnout of the survey and a reduction of people taking the survey this past fall. So we passed in the spring, but our data has been trending more positively, that people do feel like it is a safe space. There's still some indicators that tend to be the lower ones, but for the most part, our data has been trending more positively. The other thing I always think about in terms of culture, food is a culture in schools. And so one of the things we have done is for individual building budgets is we've kind of put a cap on it so that all buildings are spending similar amounts of money on providing those Monday morning bagels, providing snacks throughout the year to make teachers feel teachers and paraeducators and our custodial staff, everyone feel more comfortable in the building. They still do their own potlucks outside of the building budgets, but at least if we have that as part that we know per FTE, we're going to spend $50 for that building, it should be equitable amongst buildings so that in a district of 5 buildings, you're not going to the elementaries and the elementary teachers are always eating, and then the high school never has food. We want to think equitably in some of this too, because inequity does hurt culture when we're trying to help the culture. And so being purposeful about having some guardrails of what we're doing, I think makes sense.
Mhm. Have you seen, like, how did you take what you learned through your book study to practice? Have you seen that transfer from the learning to practice in your adults?
Yes, I've seen pockets of people that have really taken it and run with it. I can speak personally. I'm not a journaler, but I do feel like I'm pretty good in reflecting on things. My Iowa State bachelor's degree, I credit with that. I felt like I had to reflect on everything through my program at Iowa State. So but I never liked journaling. Well, one of the things that I was tuned into was a line a day is what they call it. Now, actually, it's more than one line a day. It's about 5, 6 lines. But this small amount of space, I'm like, oh, I can do that. And so it's not a 15-minute endeavor. It is a 60-second endeavor. And I just jot down kind of some notes, some reflections, some hopes, some prayers, some thoughts, and then every single day I have a little journal. So that's been one outcome for me personally. we've, I mean, I honestly think the educator wellness piece has led some of our staff members to leaving us, which obviously we don't really love that they're leaving us, but in that they've been like, hey, I'm not very, I mean, happy right now. I want to make a change in my life. I'm going to, I mean, take a different pathway. And I tell people life is too short to not be happy. And so if our book study led them to that realization and they're doing something else and being happy, that's what we want from people. And so um, turnover, obviously, we have to induct new people. One of the things that we've done over the past, this will be our third or fourth year of doing it, but we started Comet U a couple of years ago. And the idea of this is to have our induction day for new teaching staff not be connected to the school year. Because in the past, it'd been, oh, well, they come 5 days before everyone else, and then ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. We're making them drink from a fire hose with all the information that they're getting, and students are coming in a week and a half here. And so we did do it in July for a while. This year it's going to be August 4th, still more than 2 weeks removed from when they actually have to report for their first days here. But it's a day to get them in, get them their technology that they're going to need for the year, make sure they have their fobs, have them have an opportunity to meet one another, people that are in similar situations that they are, and then really talk about, well, this is what we are as a district. Here are our mission, our vision, our core values, and this is the path forward for us. So they can really focus on listening and learning to that, and then have a little bit of processing time before they come back for the actual kickoff of the year. So we've gotten very positive feedback on that, something we'll continue to do. And then I go back to food too. With our new staff members, we do a bus tour of the district because as a community school district that covers 93 and a half square miles in northern Polk County here, we do take them to Elkhart, through White Oak, through Sheldall, and then we often finish down in Polk City. And the creamery has been something we've given to new teaching staff members as a way of inducting them into the district. So through some generous donors, we've made that a possibility as well. Because food, I think, does help people to stay happy.
Yeah, so bringing people together and chatting, yeah, absolutely. Food makes a difference. So, what lessons, Michael, have you learned throughout this journey when you think about that from that systems level view? And you've spent 2 years here on this. So, what have you learned?
I've learned that you're never going to make 100% of people happy as much as you would like to. We're just looking to support the majority and making decisions that we feel like are best for our district, but then ultimately, again, coming back to our students. And we want to make sure whatever decisions we make, we have our students in mind that this should affect them in some way, shape, or form. I kind of talked about it that if you don't enjoy doing something, you're going to not do it as much. And so basketball, like I shared earlier, I encourage people, find what you like to do, because then you are going to be much more likely to do whatever it is. Um, I had one other thought, but it's eluding me right now.
That's all right. I go back to your first comment about you never going to make 100% of people happy. That's, typically part of just the job, right? Because while we can put something there for them, in this case, wellness, and helping them understand how important their own wellness is, whether it's mental, physical, right, whatever, wellness, some people just don't want to accept, right, whatever it is, in this case, wellness, right? You can't always force. All you can do is put it there, and hopefully they see the benefit of partaking in.
Yep.
How do as I think about administrators, since our organization supports administrators, we talk a lot about, that leadership life fit, because you don't necessarily have just 40-hour weeks, right? Your days can be very long at times. We know our building level leaders have some of that same, you know, evening activities that they have to be at plus their workday. So how do you help your administrators really walk the talk that they are supporting leading with their staff in their buildings
One
around
of the things
wellness?
I started this year is just a weekly check-in with all of our building principals. And so we had group meetings, but then it was an individual time to have some of the more supportive conversations. And so having those meetings has been a positive for myself, finding out more of the ins and outs of what's happening in and throughout our buildings. But then I think from our principals aspect of having FaceTime that they know we're going to have this time on a weekly basis, I can make a list of things to talk about, but then I can give more words of encouragement, I think, to them on making sure that they're taking care of themselves. Our school board certainly has that as a priority as well. Right now in the summertime, they tell our principals and directors, we don't want to see your faces at board meetings until August. So June and July board meetings are a little bit more empty, and that Matt Eicher, our board vice president, always says, we're going to get our time out of you, get your time out of us as well. And so the flexibility is something that, I mean, we talk about quite a bit over the summertime. You don't need to drive here to get work done. You can get work done from wherever you're at. We have added vacation days, so all of our directors and administrators now have 25 vacation days with the 260-day contract. So giving people flexibility to live their lives and do the things that they need to do. One story I often share with people is when I was teaching and coaching, I was at Clark of Osceola, just south of here. Go Indians. And I was debating on, do I keep coaching high school football? I was the head high school football coach at that point, or do I try to start using my administrative degree that I had earned those 2 prior years, and then also by that point had 2.5 children. One was on the way. That's why I say half. Grace was not born yet, and so I was debating what to do. And my pastor at the time, him and I had breakfast weekly down there. And Chuck DeVos told me Clark is going to have a lot of head football coaches over the next 100 years. Your children are going to have one father. And that struck a chord with me that, oh, well, that makes it crystal clear. And so as important as our jobs are, as lucky as we are to have them, they at the end of the day are just a job. And I tell people your family needs to come first. And so make sure you're taking the time to be at those moments that you need to be at, and realize while we want you to take ownership of this district 95% of the time, it is just a job at the end of the day, and you need to make sure that you are taking care of your loved ones and being there for the moments that you need to be there for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, appreciate that. That's definitely, sometimes I think we as administrators lose not that we don't lose the importance of having our family come first. It's hard to prioritize them to come first. So we get so wrapped up because the job can be all encompassing, right? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for keeping that forefront for your team. So Michael, as you are thinking into this next year, are you continuing the work around wellness? Are you deepening that work? What does that look like for North Polk?
Yeah, there's other books out there that talk about educator wellness. And so likely I'll be bringing in some of those to do book studies for people that are interested, and not as macro level of everyone's included, but smaller pockets of people that want to um, take ownership of it. But then, I mean, over the summer here, it's going to be working with our principals team of how do you, as the building principal, plan on embedding this into what you do with your staff in and throughout the year. We listen to teachers, again, feedback. And this next year we had planned all along, so this is about a 3-year plan to double route our buses. Bus driver is the hardest position that we have to hire for the district. And so I actually finished my CDL last summer. So I am a licensed bus driver. So this past year, I talked about the tour for new staff. I actually drove the bus this past year for the tour as well. So I did have Hunter Fleshner, our communications director, there to support the communication piece if I had to focus on the driving. And so we had planned on double routing buses. So that was the big change I was going to make is we're going to have elementary start times earlier, secondary start times later, and then we were going to move forward. Well, then the principals are like, well, if we're going to make a change, why don't we get rid of our late start Mondays and go to full day professional development days? And I'm like, well, why? And they said our teams are to the point where they feel like they are highly functioning collaborative teams. They need bigger chunks of time to really dive into the standards-based learning and the proficiency scale work that goes along with that to create meaningful and very accurate assessments. And so they need the bigger chunks of time. So I said, well, let's see what people think. So we sent out a staff survey, and it was 89% of teachers in our district said, yeah, get rid of the late start Mondays because it throws off the daily routine, and many of our students are routine students and that they like that predictability. And so this next year we're going to have all full days other than the first Monday of each month, except for March. We will have professional learning on those Mondays. And so it will be a different look for us for that. So we will have more full day professional days to embed some of this work as well. Self-care is still something it will be in our full days. Won't be huge chunks of time. It'll be probably at a bookend of the day so that people can make some choices for themselves. But we'll continue that. But the other part of a growing district is trying to keep the connectedness and the small town feel of a smaller district. And so making sure that we do take time to get together for people to interact. And teachers at the high school get to know teachers at West, and teachers at Big Creek, get to know teachers at the middle school, and having that overlap is an important piece to me. And so we'll build that in for the camaraderie as well. But yeah, if you have any good book suggestions for our next Educator Wellness book study, I'm open to ideas, but certainly we want to support our teachers and bus drivers and nutrition workers and technology and our business office staff and you name it. We want to make sure that we're trying to support all of our pockets for that ultimate outcome of better results for our students.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when you talk about getting people together from the different buildings, you're building culture. So that's so important in a system. Sometimes more complex and larger systems to be able to do that. But when people know each other, it just creates a different atmosphere and different culture, which then trickles down and impacts positively the students who are coming to your school. So that's
Well,
great.
and people don't always like going out of their comfort zone. So
Right.
when I give prompts in the auditorium, sometimes it is just talking to the same people, but at least they're building some culture with those people right around them. So at the end of the year, this year, one of the prompts was who's going the furthest from Iowa? And so we have one teacher going to somewhere in China and another teacher going to I think it was Uzbekistan. I would have to double check that. And so I actually looked, and they're very similar in distance from Iowa. We have our transportation director, Marcy Hannigan's going to Italy for 2 weeks. So, but just hearing where people are going.
Mhm.
And the other piece of the auditorium I chuckle about in my head is people never sit in the front row. People never sit in the front section. I personally went and bought Casey's gift cards and taped them under the front row of seats for a while to see if I could change the habit. And people sat there for a little while, but when the gift cards stopped coming, they stopped coming up to the front. I'm one of those weird people when I go to church. I like sitting in the front row because you're closest to the action. But then I changed my mindset instead of trying to get people to move forward, I'll just move closer to them. So instead
Yeah.
of going on the stage anymore in the auditorium, I just walk around with the microphone and I'll go where I need to go in the auditorium to let people share out because that connection piece is an important piece.
It
Um,
sure is.
because life is not always puppies and roses and we've had tragedy that's happened here, but the one thing that is great about the North Pole community is people show up for each other. In time of need, people show up, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Michael, we're getting close to the end. What haven't I asked you that I should have asked you that you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there anything?
You haven't asked who's the best basketball player when we do play basketball, and from the district, it's definitely our sixth grade ELA teacher, Blaze Bozek. He's I think he's about 25 years old and he runs. I mean, with a first name like Blaze, you have to be fast. And Blaze fits
Yes.
his name to a T. So it's been fun getting to know him and some of our other younger teachers. And that's kind of an avenue for that. You never asked what the best food is that we have around here. And our PTA does bring in a lot of different things for the buildings. Um, but there is a catering out of Elkhart, Bon Appetit, who they do, I think, the best meals for us. And a lot of times at Central, I'll sneak over there because district office will do food here and there. But really, if you do go to elementaries, as much as we try to be equitable there, elementaries always have some pretty good food to share out there.
Well, and I don't have to ask you what the best dessert is because when you said the creamery, hands down, the creamery. So,
Oh, absolutely. They have the cookie dough sundae right now now what I can't decide though is do you do the hot fudge or the caramel in it? Because it comes with the hot fudge, but then my sister-in-law ordered it with caramel one time and I'm like, "Oh, that's a game changer. Caramel's really good." So,
I think you'd have to see if you could drizzle both.
yeah, that would be a question to ask. So, but yeah, we are constantly thinking about how do we keep moving forward with this. And so personal days is one thing. I know Ankeny has gotten creative with their PTO time. And so how do we get maybe a little bit more creative with because life happens. And 2 personal days is not a lot of personal days for our teaching staff. So looking at potentially making some changes there of how do we understand that flexibility is a good thing and we want you to be where you need to be. But most of the days we do need you in the classroom and supporting
Right.
our learners.
Yeah. All right, Michael. So if another district wanted to do work around wellness, what advice would you give them to get started?
I would say having a mentor text to kind of lead the charge was helpful. Um, I would say take the feedback and make sure you have an avenue to have two-way communication with your staff of, okay, what is going well and what is not going well. And then food obviously is a good but healthy food too, because part of this they talk about making sure you have nutritious food. So there's an app, Yuka, Yuka, and you can scan barcodes of food, and it will tell you on a scale of 0 to 100 how healthy it is. And
Oh,
so when I learned this, the next like 2 weeks when we went to Aldi and Costco, we Yuca'd everything on there. And so it helps you find out, well, maybe this has a little bit too much sodium in it or too much saturated fat. But surprisingly, there are some things that are still fairly healthy for you. So the Aldi brand shredded mini wheat cereal, I love cereal, is a 90 on there. So now, when I eat my cereal with my soy milk, I go for that one.
so you're feeling okay about it then?
Yeah, yeah. Yuka helps me figure out what I can and cannot eat, but also, I mean, you need to live a little and splurge. So peanut M&Ms, I still have a place for peanut M&Ms in my life, and they are better than peanut butter M&Ms. I like working concessions in the summer at our baseball softball games, and my children thankfully don't mind helping too. But anytime someone orders peanut butter M&Ms, I always say, "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want the superior peanut M&Ms, and then it normally leads to conversation about the crispy M&Ms. I don't know why they took those away, but those were good too. So
Well, Michael, thanks so much again for being willing to take of your busy time and be a guest on our podcast. So appreciate it. Thank you for really focusing on educator wellness because it's so important. We think about how we show up is going to have an impact on kids, like you said, and that's why we do the work that we do, right? Is to really support kiddos. So thanks so much.
absolutely. Well, thanks for the invite, and sorry for blabbering a little bit there. People are going to be like, this guy only eats dessert if they listen to this whole thing. So
Not at all. Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode on wellness. As school leaders, taking care of ourselves isn't a luxury. It's essential to sustaining the energy and focus we need to support our students, staff, and communities. I invite you to join us at the SAI Annual Conference on August 6th and 7th. This year's event is celebrating 50 years of learning, inspiration, and innovation. You'll leave feeling renewed, inspired, and connected with others who understand the challenges and joys of leading in education today. Until next time, stay well, lead with purpose, and know that we're here to support you every step of the way.